just start to get familiar with the inner workings of both Linda and Chuck.
Yeah, I remember having that dinner, and I think I had at that point a hairpiece. We were messing around with a hairpiece, thank God. That's my real hair. You know, the most important thing, obviously, is that we feel comfortable with each other. So that was the main thing. I didn't worry at all about playing Chuck. I mean, being Chuck Trainer somehow. I did no research into Chuck Trainer. I mainly wanted to serve the story. I had like a lot of resistance to playing this role. It's weirdly emotional for me. I didn't want to do it at all. Zero. But I couldn't let it go for weeks. I walked around thinking about it. Everybody kept asking me, are you going to do it? My wife was like, what's wrong with you? I was just sculling around the house from room to room, sulking, sitting down, thinking about it, going like, why do people offer me these parts? I'm not like this. I'm such a good person. And thank you. The truth is, I have two little girls. I have a 6-year-old and I have an 8-month-old girl. And this material is incredibly disturbing for me. And I don't like playing it. But obviously I needed to for some reason. And that said, I mean, I watch it and I'm very proud of my work in it. But I know I have it in me. There's this whole part of me that I've been so eager to explore and share as an actor that there's maybe traces of in this role, and traces of like my resistance to playing the guy is in the performance. You know, trying to be. I would come across scenes where it would say like, he offers her up to be gang raped, and I would be like, this scene can't happen. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do this. It's horrible. And I think sometimes that resistance will put you in the reality of what you're doing, which helped me. But that said, I am looking for optimism, if anyone has it. Thank you.
Yeah, right up here.
Just sort of tailing on that question, that's for Peter. How were you able to find any empathy for this character?
The question is if Peter was able to find any empathy for his character.
Well, I start out with me, and I have a massive amount of empathy for me. So, everyone has lists of, we all start out as babies. And I got a baby. And then some of these babies grow up and be, you know, for one reason or another, dysfunctional and screw ups in the world and do horrible things to people. So if you start out with a baby in your head, and then just add on from there, I don't have much explanation for how I do what I do, except that the most important thing for me is that I love who I am. I think there are very few people, I'm empathy. I don't know. And I don't worry about the real guy.
Yep, in the middle. Was the purpose or aim of the film to be anti-pornography?
We didn't set out with an agenda. Our agenda was to tell the story and to start a conversation.
And interesting, you could have told the latter more about her story later in life, and she was more sort of as an activist. Do you sort of maybe chose to just focus on what you did?
Yeah, well, you know, once the Linda-Chuck relationship ended, the drama of the story was over, really. And we wanted to acknowledge her activism, so we took it as far as her writing the book and going on Donahue, which was really the beginning of her speaking out as the new Linda. And that's really as far as we thought the film could handle.
Yeah, I'll just answer that. we felt like we queued up her activism, that we took it to the point where she was psychologically ready to enter that next phase of her life, and that was really the end of our story, the story we were telling.
Yeah, up here.
I have two questions about Linda. Did she ever find her first child? And second of all, how many children did she actually have?
Question is, if Linda ever found her first child, and then how many children did she have?
Well, interesting enough, when we were doing research, we found an internet search that Linda was doing for that child that she put up for adoption, and she never found the child. And she has 2 children who are here with us, and grandchildren. She has 4 grandchildren.
And her children told us that they remembered her sitting at the computer searching for the baby, that child.
And one thing I will add, we screened the film for her kids before Sundance, just so they'd have an opportunity to just see it and respond in their own way. And afterwards, they said to us, they explained to us that they're both in long-term relationships and that neither of their relationships had ever met their mother, but now they feel like this movie will give them their opportunity to share their mother with their partners. So that meant a lot to us.
Let's do 2 questions. You had your hand up first. The question is about, so much of the film is about parents' relationships with their children, and was that a big reason why they took the film on?
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a theme, and I think maybe unconsciously that's something Jeffrey and I might have brought our own perspective on that. As gay men, we have to go through our own coming out process and our own kind of sense of self-identification and finding our own voice in that, and then finding a way to reconnect with family. So I don't think that's, I think that's something that Linda had to go through in her own way. So I think that might have been an unconscious connection on our parts as directors.
We have time for one last question. You had your hand up first.
I was surprised that after the film was made, the first part of the film, that the world seemed to be shining sparkly, and then found that the way the story was told was so effective that it kind of retell the real story. Was that always the construct you had, or did that kind of evolve as a process?
That's a great question to end on. He's talking about the structure of the film and how the first, it's sort of split up into the 2 halves, the one surface part and then the follow-up, the true story. Was that always your intention? Or
It was. That was our intention, and that was really our pitch to Laura and the producers. That's what got us the gig. And then we worked very closely with Andy Bellin, the screenwriter, to realize that in his screenplay.
Our idea was to try to mirror both the way that we learned about Linda's story, we as the public at the time. These two narratives that seem so contradictory, and we also wanted it to mirror Linda's psychology as she was able to get to the point in her life where she was able to look back at that experience and see it in a new way.
That's great. So please help keep the applause going for Rob Epstein, Jeffrey Frieidman, and their wonderful cast. Amanda Seyfried, Peter Forsberg. And producer Lovelace.
Thank you very much.
Producer Laura Rister, and the others I don't need to introduce. You know them.
So we have time for some question and answers. Yeah, right up front.
Amanda, great performance.
Yes.
There's been a lot of talks about Linda Lovelace biography with a lot of other actors who wanted to play her. Why did you want or need to play this part, and what was it like shooting the famous doctor's office scene for you?
Question is, what was it like to play this part, and what was it like to play the famous doctor's office?
I wanted to be a part of this from the day I heard about it, and also that there was a perfect kind of package. There was an amazing script, and these guys were attached to it, and I was just like, I feel like this is what I need to be doing. I was looking for a challenge. I wanted to tell her story. I wanted to get involved in someone's life in that way, and portray somebody that really existed. And I think her story is really fascinating. I think it's I don't know, it's controversial. I love this kind of stuff, and shooting that scene was actually really fun. It was probably the most fun I had on set, because the acting in Deep Throat is so it's so bad, and no, in such a wonderfully innocent, like, cute way, and reenacting those scenes is just like insane, because I watched it over and over again. We all watch it over and over again, and sometimes I see you guys and I just want to like speak like that. just I don't know. It's just really we had a lot of fun on this movie, despite all the dark places we had to go at times with this man. But we laughed more than I've ever laughed in a movie before. So it goes to show you gotta have good people around you, tell a good story, and believe in it, and
Yep, over here.
To Rob and Jeffrey, why did you want to tell this story?
The question is to the filmmakers, why did they want to tell this story?
It's a great story. Linda embodies a moment in our culture that I think is really fascinating. The moment we think of as the sexual revolution and the segue into feminism. Her story, her story embodies all of that. And I think, in many ways, Deep Throat and the whole Linda phenomenon was the beginning, it was the beginning of the porn explosion. It was before the internet and before you could look at porn on your phone. So, in many ways, it defined who we are as a culture sexually. And the whole idea of celebrity culture, I think, was interesting to us. We thought of Linda as the first reality star. She became famous for her special talent, and then she was just famous for being famous. And then the fame sort of took over, and she had to really struggle to get her sense of identity back.
Well, first of all, we were partying till 3 o'clock last night. After our premiere and the film sold, we were very happy. Some of us are a little hungover, but you can enjoy it vicariously. Hopefully I can put a sentence together. When we were first approached by Laura and the other producers to consider this project, we were so taken with the story of this 22-year-old woman who became world famous as an international porn star, and then had to spend the rest of her life redefining herself, struggling to redefine herself and to find her own voice. And we really wanted to find a story structure that could somehow convey her psychological state at those different junctures of her life. So that's what really excited us, both in terms of what the film might have to say and how we might try and tell it.
Yeah, right there. Yep.
So, one of the main reasons I came and saw this movie is that there's a lot of things in the news going that people are protesting that Lovelace, and there's two mother something protesters that they think this is a porn star, the movie about the porn star. It's just like a ridiculous claim that are around this movie. This is an amazing acting, very good movie that has nothing to do with pornography. What do you think as a producer
Because they need something to protest against.
Yeah. Question is about some of the controversy maybe around some of the sexual content in films in the festival here. Yeah, but just the perceived sexual content.
Yeah, it's all about the perception. I guess they, as I was saying, they need something to protest against. It sounds like it's a small group. It sounds like they don't know anything about the film, or they didn't. They certainly haven't seen it, because no one had seen it prior to the premiere last night. So, really, it's based on description alone.
What country are you from?
I'm from country of Georgia.
Next question, yeah, all the way in the back up there. Yep.
Repeat.
Yeah, the question is Catherine McKinnon, who is an attorney and has done a lot of work on the pornography issue. She represented Linda Lovelace later in her life, Linda Boardman, Linda Margiano, actually, and was a consultant on the film. We contacted Gloria Steinem in our research phase. We were in touch with people who knew Linda, and Gloria was one of the people that we just had an informal telephone interview with, and then she introduced us to Catherine McKinnon, who then introduced us to Linda's children, who were all here last night and loved the movie.